town for gun safety. We have chapters in all 50 states and more than 5 million supporters across the country, and we are growing every day. Our movement is powered by you, our volunteers, and we have tremendous momentum. Moms of Action Minnesota has tens of thousands of supporters across the state from red, blue, and purple districts, and we have enjoyed huge growth in Minnesota in the last year, more than tripling the number of our local groups. We were here on the very first day of the legislative session, and we have been calling, emailing, and meeting with our legislators ever since, and we are not going away. I really hope they are listening. Last spring, we said that if our leaders refuse to pass gun safety legislation, then come November, we would replace them with leaders who will. And that is just what we did. Too many people are killed and injured by gun violence. We want something done. 465 Minnesotans died by firearm in 2017, and on average, 1 Minnesotan dies by firearm suicide every single day. We want something done. Firearms are the second leading cause of death for American children and teens, and the leading cause of death for Black children and teens. We want something done. Our government must do more to protect our children. We have had enough. It is time to act. Thank you to the Minnesota House, the Governor, and Lieutenant Governor, who are making this a priority.
Yes!
In the Minnesota House, 2 committees have now passed criminal background checks and red flag bills. 2 bills that Minnesota law enforcement leaders are asking the legislature to pass. Let us be clear. Similar bills have been introduced in the Minnesota Senate. And for senators in this building, our message is straightforward. We are asking for these public safety bills. Minnesota voters are asking for these public safety bills. And law enforcement is asking for these public safety bills. Minnesota senators to show their constituents where they stand. It is simply time to be proactive. We want something done. We are not making outrageous demands. We are simply asking that guns be kept out of the hands of people we all agree should not have them. It is time to pass red flag laws now. It is time to pass background checks now. It is time to pass these common sense measures that will help keep our kids and communities safe. It is time to act. Thank you. Survivor Fellow and Survivor Membership League for the state of Minnesota.
Thanks, Sarah. I know some of our legislators are starting to come into the room, and I actually have a confession for them. I'm envious of you. I'm envious of you this session. See, I have two little boys, both school age. Each night at dinner, we talk about their days. They tell me about all the exciting things that they've done. About once a week, they'll ask me about my work day and how it was. I'm a lawyer, so I do my best to make a conference call I have with someone in a far-off place like New York or Chicago sound exciting. Sometimes I may try to impart a lesson. Hey, I really helped someone follow the rules today. Their eyes glaze over. And maybe I should realize why they only ask me about it once a week. But our legislators this session, they have the opportunity to go home to their kids, their grandkids, nieces, nephews, or neighbors, and tell them that they were heroes.
Yes.
They have the opportunity to do that because they have the opportunity to pass two bills that help save lives. And we all know that heroes save lives. Background check bills we see time and time again in other states with similar laws. They reduce gun deaths across the board. Red flag laws are important in stopping individuals from hurting themselves or others. They save lives. When I think about heroes for my boys, I always think about my dad, Billy Venable, and my brother, Bill. About 15 years ago, they were both shot and killed in a random home burglary attempt. Now, my dad was this larger-than-life figure for me. He was a football coach and a wrestling coach. So growing up, I got to do everything that I wanted to do in watching him and being a coach's kid. I got to see how respected and revered he was by his athletes and his students. But I had something better than that. He was my dad. He was my hero before he died protecting our family. My brother was a little different. He was 17, a senior in high school. Just come off a great football season playing for our dad. He was about to head off to college. I was supposed to be the one that he looked up to help him through college and his first job and challenges like that. But in an instant, in a moment where he raced down the stairs to help our dad, he forever became my hero. Now, the circumstances of my story may be a little unique, but the results are not. About 100 gun deaths a day in America, more than one a day here in Minnesota. The results are the same. Too many gun deaths. Too many fallen heroes. We need more living heroes. More champions of our cause. More willing to stand up with us and say, not one more. Good news is we're starting to see those heroes. You right here have made gun safety and gun violence prevention a forefront issue in Minnesota politics. And last fall, we made it a voting issue, which it will remain. As Aaron said, we elected a governor committed to gun safety and gun violence prevention. We created a gun sense majority in the Minnesota House. So legislators, and I mean the House and the Senate, the opportunity is yours. Be heroes.
and couldn't get a lot of work done because you were so loud. And that's wonderful, and that is exactly what this issue calls for. I am here rocking my sticker and rocking my bracelets. And my Mom's Demand Action t-shirt is on regular rotation at my house. Because I am a mom who demands action on gun violence prevention. And I am honored and humbled to be part of a team in the executive branch with Governor Walz, who also demands action on gun violence prevention. As we travel the state together, we heard from you. We heard from you about how this was an incredibly important issue that people were thinking about and was on their hearts and minds as they went to cast their ballots this past fall. And we know that this is an issue that is a public health issue, that is an issue that impacts people across lines of difference, across communities, and that is why within our budget we have funding for background checks and for extreme risk protection orders. And Governor Walz often talks about budgets being not just fiscal documents, but moral documents as well. And so that is why funding for these two important measures is in our bill. And I want to give a special shout out to Representative Pinto and Representative Richardson for their and a special shout out to my senator, Senator Ron Latz, for being a champion of gun violence prevention. He's so effective that you mentioned his name and he's suddenly appeared. But I do want to get really personal for a minute. And I appreciate and want to just raise my hands in gratitude to all of the survivors of gun violence, and all of the people who have been impacted by this issue personally. Your courage to tell your story, your narratives, are the most important tools in our toolbox to make change on these issues. So thank you for your willingness and your courage to tell your stories. And so many of you know, because you see her, oftentimes she's my sidekick. My daughter Siobhan is with me. She was with me a lot on the campaign trail, and she spends a lot of time here in the Capitol. And she is 6 years old. She started kindergarten this year. And my mom pride of the moment is that she played Snow White in her school play this past year. But as a mom who is sending her kid off to kindergarten, you feel a lot of feelings, right? I felt pride as she had this oversized backpack as she walked into that building. And I felt nervous. But what I didn't expect to feel was 2 days after she started kindergarten, when she came home and she told me about the drills that they had to do if someone was going to come into their school to hurt them. And I caught my breath. And so when we talk about these issues, for all of us, they are so personal. And we cannot keep throwing up our hands and saying there's nothing that we can do. There is absolutely something that we can do. And we can that you have done. And thank you for the work that we will do together to end gun violence in Minnesota. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. We really appreciate how the administration is making this a priority. And now I would like to introduce another hero, the author of the background check bill and a true gun sense champion, Representative Dave Pinto.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Representative Dave Pinto from St. Paul, and yes, the author of the bill for criminal background checks. And I want to make sure we're really clear about what we're talking when I say that. The principle is a simple one. If you're selling your gun to somebody else, you should make sure that that person is actually eligible to have the gun.
Yes!
A basic principle that is supported by, according to Star Tribune polls, more than 90% of Minnesotans. Supported by faith leaders, supported by the medical community, supported by a phalanx of law enforcement, the police chiefs, the sheriffs, the county attorneys, the rank and file police members, all of them saying that we need to do more to keep guns out of the hands of people who have shown themselves to be dangerous. Do you agree?
Yes!
And in a minute, you're going to hear about another bill to do that from a colleague of mine, Representative Ruth Richardson. And this bill's for these court orders, extreme risk protection orders. These two bills work together to say that we need to be taking these steps to do more to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. Now, these bills have been proposed for a long time. And you may remember that a year ago, we brought these bills forward, managed to get a hearing on the bills, and they were put on ice, put on the table, okay? Well, I'm delighted to let you know that just within the past 2 weeks, these two bills have now cleared 2 committees in the Minnesota House. So what changed? What changed in this past year? And of course, what changed was you, right? And us. All of us working together. That's what changed. In the past year, you have been coming out day after day after day. And who else has been out here? It's been young people. It's been high school students out on the steps. And they are saying, we're not going to take it anymore. No, no. We are sick and tired of this. It is time. And so what happened is you came out day after day, and then you certainly came out in November of 2018, and you got yourself a 1-cent majority control. So my friends, my feeling is that it is time, right? It is time. It is time to pass these bills in the Minnesota House, and we will do that, right? Bills to get a hearing, and you're going to hear about this, I believe, from my colleagues in the Senate. Time for these bills to get a hearing in the Minnesota Senate. It's time to hear the bills.
Time!
It is time to hear the bills. It's time to hear the bills.
It's time to hear the bills. It's time to hear the bills. It's time to hear the bills. It's time to hear the bills.
Because when they do, when our colleagues in the Senate hear the bills, of course, they will understand how much these bills are needed. So I want to tell you, keep up the pressure, keep up the push day after day after day as you have been doing. And as you do, you'll be building a state that is safer for every single Minnesotan. And that is our goal, and that is what we need to do. Keep it up day after day after day. Thank you so much, everyone, for your work. Thank you.
And now it is my honor to introduce another Gun Sense champion hero,
because Minnesota has spoken and they have said enough. They have said it is time to pass common sense gun safety legislation. I'm chief author of House File 9, and House File 9 is known as the Red Flags Law or the Extreme Risk Protection Order Law. And basically, we're going to do something that makes common sense. If someone shows themselves to be at risk of harming themselves or other people, there should be a mechanism in place in the law to ensure that they don't have access to a gun. I've had some people ask me, you're a freshman, you're vulnerable. Why would you carry this controversial piece of legislation as a freshman? And I say it's because it's the right thing to do. And we know that good things oftentimes require a lot of hard work, and I am up for the task. I won't be intimidated by the people who oppose this bill. What they may not know is I come from a long line of people who have been intimidated. And we still show up and we speak up. Gun deaths are something that touch all of us. It cuts across race, it cuts across class, and I know that I've personally looked into the face of too many people who've had their hearts ripped out as a result of gun violence. And it's past time to do something about gun violence. I also want to highlight one issue that we don't oftentimes talk very much about when we're thinking about risk factors. I want to spend a little time talking about suicide. For those of you who've looked at the data, in Minnesota, approximately 80% of the gun deaths in Minnesota are suicides. 4 out of 5 of the gun deaths in Minnesota are people who are taking their own lives. That, to me, qualifies as a public health crisis. We need to get to the root causes of why people are taking their own lives, but we also need to look at how they are taking their lives. That is our responsibility as a legislature. And I am so proud to stand amongst all of you today. And I'm proud to work on these bills. And I just want you to know that I will be with you until the very end. And we need to get this done. It is time.
Representative Richardson. And now I would like to introduce a gun sense champion and survivor, Senator Jeff Hayden.
Good morning. It's good to see you guys on this foggy morning and all the wonderful red shirts. It really warms my heart. My name is Jeff Hayden. I'm a state senator from South Minneapolis, Senate District 62. And I'm a gun survivor, victim, a person who's lost someone to gun violence. As many of you know, my sister Taylor Hayden, proud Wayzata High graduate, in Prairie View A&M graduate, was killed in Atlanta just about 3 years ago this summer. She, with her friends, decided to go on a girls' weekend to Atlanta. She was living in Houston sleeping at the time, and as she left a kind of a restaurant, nightclub, gun violence erupted between two rivaling factions, and they ran through the crowd, and she was shot and killed. As many of you know who have experienced this, it's something that's unfathomable, something that you can't explain, and something that absolutely never goes away. So it warms my heart, and I'm so glad to see all of you here. You're like my extended family that props me up each and every day. And so for me, they often say don't take things personal around here. Well, this is personal.
Yes.
Right? And I want to make sure that as you go out and you talk to legislators across the day, when you go talk to folks that give you all those lame excuses, right, about why they can't pass this and why they can't pass that, you let them know that Jeff Hayden says they're full of baloney. I was going to say something else, but I'll try to keep my decorum here. I have authored the bill, Senate File 464, that has a companion here in the House in memory of my sister. And my track is, because we have great bills that Representative Richardson, Senator Latz, and others that you know about, and I'm going to let them talk about it. That's the ones that we have really said extreme risk and others, and universal background checks and permit to purchase, and how we kind of figure that out. But this one also gets into the mindset of people who are using the guns, right? The gun is the instrument, and we got to get rid of that and make sure people don't have access to that. But we also got to talk to our young people and others that think that using a gun is the way to settle their differences.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So my bill proposes in my sister's memory to be able to go out and have that conversation with Minnesotans, primarily young people who are kind of formulating and trying to figure out how to deal with their issues, often in urban communities, but not so much anymore. We're seeing this in the suburbs and in rural areas as well. And have a conversation with them to try to get upstream of this issue. So it really talks to prevention, early intervention, and then really working. Because we know this. We know that once somebody makes that wrong choice to pull that trigger, regardless if it's on themselves or someone else, that's often something that they can't take back. So if we can deputize our young people and our moms and our grandmas and our fathers and our uncles to really have this conversation, I think we can get upstream of this issue along with all of the great things that my colleagues say that they want to do. So I am excited that you're here. Every time I come up here, I think that I can do it, right? It's been 3 years now, and as you guys know, it hurts. It hurts just as if I got that call in July 3 years ago. So once again, what I hope, and if my stepmother Joyce was here, my father Peter, my sister Erin and Sydney, and if they were here, what they said and our foundation says is not another life, right? Not another life.
One more.
So as I leave today, maybe that should be the chant for Taylor. Not another life.
Not another life. Not another life.
Thank you.
Not another life.
Thank you, Senator Hayden, for sharing your story and being a gun sense champion in the Senate. And now I would like to introduce the author of the bills in the Senate, Senator Ron Latz.
Thank you. I'm not as tall as Senator Hayden, so I had to bring the mic down. Again, thank you to Senator Hayden and Senator Klein who will be coming, and Representatives Pinto, and for all the work that they are doing in the House, especially this year, because we've got the majorities of people who support gun sense in America. They are really, really working hard to come up with a bill that can pass in the House and in the Senate. we can only get a vote. And I've been asking Senator Limmer, the chair of the Senate Judiciary, for a hearing on this bill for a year and a half. And I keep getting told we don't have enough time in committee because we have all these other bills.
Liar.
I don't know, in a year and a half, maybe we can find an hour or two to hear some gun violence reduction bills. The other excuse I'm getting is that he doesn't have a green light yet from leadership in the Republican Senate. Well, last I checked, he was the most senior member of the Republican caucus in the Senate, an official part of their leadership. Now, Senator Gazelka, the majority leader, has kind of stuck his feet in cement over this issue. But I think he should remember that if the Senate had been up for election last November, he would not be in control right now. Districts, thanks to the organizing work that you did and thousands of others like you did to make this a political issue that people were willing to vote on in the election. And the people voted in House members that agree with our side on this issue, not the side of those who want to keep guns readily available for people in Minnesota. And Senator Gazelka should know, if he wants to keep a majority in 2 years, or a year, really, the election's a year and a half away. If he wants to keep that majority, they need to vote on this bill, and they need to pass our bills in the state Senate. So why are we here today? We're here because we know that these bills will stop or reduce anyway gun violence, gun deaths for women in violent domestic partner relationships. We know that background checks reduce suicides by almost 50%. We know that these bills will save police officers' lives. And these aren't just hunches that we have. These are scientific statistics, data from states that have background checks. We know that this will work. We've got gaps in our laws big enough to drive Mack trucks through right now. And we have it within our power, within the Senate's power, to pass these bills, to close these gaps, and to actually save lives. So why can't we get a vote on it, Senator Gazelka? Your power and the power of the constituents in those districts, we will get a vote. We will pass these laws. We will save lives. We will prevail. Keep up your good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Labs, for your leadership. And now I would like to introduce Senator Klein, both a gun sense champion in the Senate and a doctor at Hennepin County Medical Center.
Thank you so much. Sometimes I come up here and I talk about my work as a doctor at Hennepin County Medical Center because about 5 months ago, the National Rifle Association told me that I should stay in my lane. When I think about the 40,000 people that died of gun violence in this country last year, when I think about the epidemic of suicide that Ruth Richardson legislation told us about. When I think about the families in the hallways at Hennepin County Medical Center, distraught and sobbing, I realize one thing: this is our lane.
Yes!
This is our lane, and we are not going anywhere. But I want to talk also today about my duties as a senator and the representation that we have in the Senate, and is at this point your prime obstacle to accomplishing our prime obstacle to accomplishing these bills. The House has done their work. They've seen these bills in committee, and they've given them a decent hearing with an opportunity for both sides to plead their case. We have not had that in the Senate, and people say that it won't happen. I don't accept that.
No!
Gun violence is not and cannot be a Democrat or Republican issue. In fact, I don't think that any of the labels around gun violence pertain any longer. The wave of voters that flipped the House in November were both Democrats and Republicans. They were hunters and sportsmen and suburban moms. They were from the city and the greater state, and all of them were stunned by our acceptance of gun violence. All of them were fed up with our collective tolerance of mass school shootings in the suburbs, casual homicides in our neighborhoods, and farmers committing suicides and leaving great heartbreak behind. They had faith that we are capable of better, and they voted for gun sense candidates.
Yes!
I trust the Senate Republicans to do the right thing. I have faith in gun owners like myself who expect all of us to manage our firearms wisely and responsibly, to obtain permits to purchase, to separate people who are unstable or dangerous from firearms. I have faith in this legislature that we can address the crisis of gun violence and maintain our vigilant reverence for the Constitution. Most of all, have faith in you, the good people of Minnesota who show up in the rain and the sleet in March to move us forward toward a better state. I ask you not to write off a legislator because they have a D or an R by their name, but to keep talking to all legislators about the place you want Minnesota to be. We can vote them out, but it is far better to win them over. Thank you, Minnesota.
Thank you so much, Senator Klein. And now I would like to introduce Assistant Commissioner of Public Safety and former Chief of Police for Burnsville, Bob Hawkins.
Good morning, everyone. And what an amazing energy there is in this room today. Thank you for that. I'm Bob Hawkins, Assistant Commissioner at the Department of Public Safety, and on behalf of Commissioner John Harrington, it's truly my privilege to be with you here today. And believe me, Commissioner Harrington would love to be here as well, but work has taken him to Washington, D.C., so I got the privilege. My background is 37 years in law enforcement, and I had the privilege of being the chief in Burnsville for 8.5 years. And during my time there, we had a real battle with methamphetamines. You'll probably remember what I refer to it as the Ma and Pa meth labs that popped up all over the state, and we had our hands full with methamphetamine. That also meant that we were dealing with all the serious crime that goes with that. One particular year, we had 2 homicides by April. The thefts, burglaries, robberies, aggravated assaults were off the charts. We had to create a crime street unit that got all over it. We got a lot of drugs off the street, we got those violent offenders off the streets, and we got a ton of guns off the street. Now, certainly Commissioner Harrington has been equally committed for his 40 years in law enforcement in the communities that he served, St. Paul and Metro Transit. And we're very fortunate here in Minnesota that our Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan have made it a priority. They are are definitely very interested in keeping us all safe, and they want to see these bills passed this year. In regards to background checks, it's as simple as making it consistent across the board. If you're going to purchase a firearm, you're going to have a background check.
Yep.
In regards to the extreme risk, if somebody is going through that personal crisis and they're getting the help that they need, it allows us to safely secure those firearms. Now for me, before I step away from this microphone, what I want to do is I want to thank all of you for how amazing you are, for your passion, your dedication, and your commitment, because I know many of you have been touched by gun violence, and you've turned that into an energy to try to help prevent it from happening to other families in Minnesota, and God bless you for that. The one thing that I would ask is don't ever let your voices become silent. Don't ever lose that energy, because quite frankly, I think some of the legislators get tired of hearing from me. But they don't get tired of hearing from you, because you're their constituents. You put them into office with the expectation that they make good decisions and keep you safe. Thank you for what you do.
We are so happy to have the support of law enforcement on our bills. And now it is my honor to introduce former English teacher, former administrator in the Mankato Area Public Schools, and current First Lady of Minnesota, Gwen Wallace.
Today. It's a sea of red, and you know, the Mankato West color was red, so I feel right at home here. Yeah, go Scarlets, that's right. A fellow fan. First of all, on behalf of Tim and our entire family, I want to thank you. Thank you for your work around such an important issue. Thank you also for helping us learn and listen. That is a really important role that you play, and I think one of the best things about the current governor, about Tim, is that good teachers are just really good learners. And he's a good learner, and he values hearing from you, from everyone, but your voice and how we walk together through that journey, and may not have started out in the first place, in the same place with him, first of all, right? I mean, Tim is he's a hunter. His family grew up doing that, and so it might not have seemed, you know, at first logical, but that is the power of moms and women and groups like this who convene the conversation.
Yep.
Lesson right now, because what you all have is passion and patience to have that conversation. So we need to have that conversation every single day, maybe every minute of every day, until we have a vote on this bill. My husband, the governor, he is committed to working with the legislature. And all of these people who just spoke to you, Senator Labs, Representative Richardson, Representative Pinto, Senator Klein, they have worked incredibly hard in putting something together that moves this legislation. And do you mean to tell me, after all of the votes that have happened, after all of the conversations that have happened, after all the work that's been done, do you mean to tell me the Senate is going to stand in the way of democracy?
No!
Unacceptable. When I would make a mistake growing up, and even still now, my mom will say to me, Gwen, use your common sense. Where is your common sense? And that's all she needed to say to me, and I knew I needed to rethink where I was. I would say on this vote, and to the Senate, and to the people making this decision, where is your common sense?
Yes.
As an English teacher, I'd also like to reframe this. It feels like they have the power, English teacher. It feels like they have the power not to put this up for a vote. So let's reframe that word for them. Because if you are really about Minnesota, if you are really about what I stand for, what Tim stands for, what I think you all stand for, power is not the word in the equation. The word is responsibility.
Yes.
If you think you have power, you better have responsibility. And responsibility is bringing this up for a vote. Now, if there aren't the votes, there aren't the votes. That's our job. I believe there are votes. And it is in the governor's budget. It is the full intention. It is funded in his budget. It is the full intention that this become the law. Responsibility to put it up for a vote. But I have a message, because if they do not put it up for a vote, there are 7 senators sitting in seats where Tim Walz won, and they are Republicans, and we are coming. It is the right thing to do. But if you choose not to, we will become advocates, which means service. We will take our power, which means responsibility, and we will campaign so that this will be brought up for a vote. Make no mistake about it. I was at the National Governors Association with Tim a couple weeks ago, and we had the chance to meet governors from across the nation. And they kind of put you in a seating arrangement, kind of like an English class. So you don't always sit next to the same people, and you don't even sit next to your spouse. And we happened to get to sit next to the governor from Florida and also the governor from Arizona. They're both Republicans. They have both passed this legislation. Minnesota, who has always led in our country, is surpassed by Florida and Arizona? I mean, no offense, but come on! Leaders, get out of the way! children, almost 7 years. And finally, with a lot of help from the Mayo Clinic and a lot of prayers and a lot of things, we had a daughter. And we named her Hope because we thought it was the most powerful word in the universe. And she's a senior in high school right now. And it's a pretty exciting time. It's a little challenging, to be true, but it's a pretty exciting time with Hope. But I always tell her, Hope, your name is a very, very powerful word, but it is not a strategy. Yeah. Right? Not a strategy. So today you are here and you are marching, and I know you are organized. But I would ask you to recommit to the strategy over the next few weeks, maybe over the next, to the end of the legislative session, and do everything we possibly can to have a strategy to pull this through and commit every single resource that we have. And resource isn't just money, it's time, right? And it's energy, and it's even supporting people who are maybe fighting that good fight. So I think we all help and support in every possible way that we can. But I think we commit right now to the strategy of hope. And that is the one thing that we never lose, right? Is hope, because it's a powerful word. We are in it. We are in it for the duration. So if it's, I hope it comes up this legislative session. I sincerely do. And we are having conversations nonstop about that. But I think right now our strategy involves getting that vote to happen, and then we go from there, because again, I want to say it's already in the budget. It's already there. You already have the governor's commitment. So with that, once again, it's an honor to be among you. I'm sorry for our losses. I'm sorry for all of your losses. I'm sorry for the loss that means to our state and our country. And you have said no more. You have taken your power, which equals responsibility. You've taken your advocacy, which means you are servants. And we are going to prevail. So with that, thank you again. Have a great day, and let's get a vote.
Each time. Since the Parkland shooting, I've become an activist against gun violence. Gun violence should not be a partisan topic, but rather a universally horrifying catastrophe leading to calls for reform. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, we responded by declaring war on Japan the very next day. When the terrible 9/11 attacks on the Twin Towers devastated our morale, we responded by entering the Middle East with a vengeance. Just as these attacks were attacks on our nation's sovereignty, so is every single shooting in America one on our nation's sovereignty. For too long, our nation's lawmakers would not even acknowledge the fact that our nation has a problem. But finally, this is changing. And right here in this building, our lawmakers have a chance to work across party lines and vote for 2 public safety laws that majority of Minnesotans support, as well as many gun owners, including myself. Without the universal background checks, domestic abusers, sexual predators, and other residents barred from buying guns can easily buy one with no background check and no questions asked. And without red flag laws, we're leaving Minnesota law enforcement without a tool that can help when someone poses a threat to themselves or to others. This is Minnesota, but is this the Minnesota we want? Today is a day that we say no more.
No more!
Instead of thoughts and prayers, we want policy and action.
We want action! We want action!
Gun violence
Action!
is an assault on our future, and there is no action being taken to prevent it. Today, I say no more. Tomorrow, I will say no more. Until the day I die, I will say no more. People count or count people. You decide. Let's create change.
caring adults. So let me provide some context for the student passion in this movement. I'm 17 years old. I haven't graduated high school yet. I can't vote. Heck, I had to sign 2 waivers and show a medical insurance card just to be able to participate here today. Now, I'm also guessing many of you remember the Columbine High School shooting.
Yes.
Well, in 1999, when that shooting occurred, I wasn't even born. For decades, we have cycled through mass violence, thoughts and prayers, maintenance of the status quo, and then repetition of the exact same violence. For those of us on the precipice of adulthood, this has been our entire lives. We have grown up in an era where kindergartners get killed in the classroom and students are afraid to sit in those exact same classrooms. We have got to do better.
Yes.
We students demand action, not just for safe schools, but for a safe America.
Yes.
Together we dream of a nation in which families can attend a movie together or visit their place of worship in peace. A nation in which suicidal individuals can turn to the help they deserve instead of reaching for a gun. And a nation in which our black and brown siblings are not being disproportionately shot dead in the street.
Yes.
When Students Demand Action formed here in Minnesota, we joined a cacophony of voices across the nation. We have grown from a few people meeting on a front porch to a statewide leadership team of over a dozen and an organization of hundreds of students across the state.
Yes.
Through this, we have advocated in the March for Our Lives, town halls with legislators, art festivals, and youth summits. We are an organization in which Peyton, a gun owner from Greater Minnesota, and myself, a city kid from a few miles away, can work together for gun violence prevention across our state and nation. We youth are the future, and our organization continues to expand. We have new chapters at Blake, Carlton, and McAllister. Together we have helped light a fire for change, and we join you as we collectively advocate for a safer state and country for us all. Thank you all for being here today.
Prevention movement has made all the difference. Thank you, Students Demand Action. Now I would like to introduce a member of Mayors Against Illegal Guns, someone who has worked on gun violence prevention for years and really made it a priority in his city, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry.
Are you ready to go? Well, I'll tell you what. I am here because I am done with inaction. I am here because the state legislature has preempted local governments just like Minneapolis from acting in the area of gun reform and control. Here's the thing. They want to tell us that it's not our job to act in the area of sensible, common sense gun reform. Okay. Well, if it's not our job, whose job is it? Are you legislators who have been opposing repeatedly again and again common sense gun reform gonna step up and do your job? Because I'd say it's high time. Our violence prevention experts, they've been working around the clock to address this gun epidemic. And as a matter of fact, just last week, one of our Minneapolis officers was honored for the work he did to prevent a school shooting. So I know that our employees are doing everything that they can to prevent gun violence. And I want to know, to some of these legislators, what are they doing? What are you doing right now to prevent people from dying? Yes. Local police departments, our health professionals, and our school teachers, by the way, who are all on the exact same page on this.
Yes. Yes.
We have the vast majority of support on this particular issue, and they are crying out for common sense gun reform. So I'm tired of being woken up at 2 in the morning, repeatedly getting a call from our police chief, Arredondo, saying that yet another person has been shot dead. Another brother, another sister, another son or daughter whose life has been lost for no apparent reason at all. And I hear a lot of talk on the other side about freedom. Freedom to carry a gun. Freedom to not have a background check, which, by the way, is not enumerated in any way, shape, or form in our Constitution. I'll tell you what, just regular residents of our city and our state, they should have freedoms too. Young people should have the freedom to be able to go out and play basketball without getting concerned about getting shot. Moms and students should feel the freedom to go to their school and be in their classroom without concern for yet another school shooting. Believe in freedom. Let's make sure that every single resident in Minnesota is free from nonsensical gun violence. So I'm done with inaction, and I know you all are too. We're not talking about talking about red flag laws and closing background check loopholes to make sure that guns aren't in the hands of people that just quite simply shouldn't have them. You really want a gun? All right, fine. What's wrong with getting a simple background check? When we can save lives, we should. When we can save lives, we should. I just said, which is the simplest, most simplistic thing that you should possibly be doing as a government official. When you should save lives, you should. The evidence is so freaking exceedingly clear on this topic. Let the resident trust the facts, and the facts are that if we act, we can save lives. Now, I was out here a year ago, and we were talking about the young people, who, by the way, are the NRA's worst nightmare. About moms all rallying around a common sense message. And, they didn't want to hear it. They didn't think that we were going to come out to the polls. They didn't think we were going to knock on doors and make phone calls and donate money and organize. But those moms and those young people and these families that have been victim of gun violence, I'll tell you what, they came out and they kicked their ass. You couldn't believe. And if they don't change their tune once again, they're gonna get their ass kicked yet again.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate that. As moms, we're not used to such colorful language, but we appreciate the passion. And now, it is my honor to introduce Survivor Fellow, founding member of Moms Band Action Minnesota, and our Deputy Chapter Leader, Merritt Brock.
Another Advocacy Day. You guys are fired up. You're ready to go. You've got meetings, and we're almost done with the speeches. As Erin mentioned, I've been with Moms Band Action Minnesota since the beginning. I was a founding member. And preventing gun violence, and particularly gun suicide, is personal to me because I'm a gun violence survivor. Today I want to tell you my story because as exciting as this is, the laws, the facts, the statistics aren't the whole story. Gun violence isn't just an abstract concept, it affects Minnesota. When I hear a fact, like 78% of gun deaths in Minnesota are gun suicide, I see my brother's face and I feel his absence. When I heard recently that gun suicides are on the rise in Minnesota, it broke my heart, and then it made me mad that we couldn't prevent those families from having to go through what my family went through. On August 21st, 2001, my youngest brother took the hunting gun that our grandfather had given to him, and he shot and killed himself. Like too many Minnesota men, he looked for the answer at the end of a gun, and it left our family heartbroken. For me, my life is always divided into before and after. Before my brother died, I'll be honest, I thought gun violence and gun suicide was something that happened to other people's families. Now I know, and you've heard today, that gun violence is a public health emergency in Minnesota. When we hear that someone in Minnesota dies by gun suicide every single day, we know we can do better. and there are many solutions underway. But right now, our gun laws are working against our public health efforts. We know that background checks on all gun sales drastically reduces suicide in the states where it's enacted. We should do that. And we know that red flag laws will allow law enforcement to intervene and save lives. If we're going to end gun suicide, we have to have our laws working in the same direction as the rest of us. To go to their meetings. Thank you for the work you're doing. It's so important, and you are saving lives. And if I could, I'd like to ask you a favor. As you're talking with lawmakers today, will you keep my brother in your heart? Will you remind them that too many Minnesotans have died already? And please remind them that gun violence prevention, preventing gun suicide is not a political issue, it's a public health issue. We need them to act now. Minnesota families need their help. There is no more time to waste.
Thank you, Merit, for sharing your story, a story that's all too common in our state. So I know we have had a lot of great speakers. I'm just going to close for you all, but I know some of you have meetings, so I'm going to ask, I want you to stay here now, but those who are lobby coaches to just hold up your numbers, please, as I make my closing remarks. So thank you all for coming here today, and especially thank you to survivors and all those affected by gun violence for honoring your loved ones with actions. Unfortunately, there's a growing number of people that have been affected by gun violence. I will never forget the call I received 5 years ago from my sister, who was sobbing uncontrollably because our friend had been shot to death. A mother of 3 who opened her door and was shot by a convicted felon who should have never had access to a firearm. We must do a better job of keeping guns out of the hands of people who should not have them. This should not be a partisan issue. People from across the political spectrum all agree, from DFLers, Republicans, gun owners, NRA members, that we need to keep guns out of dangerous hands. Well, how do you do that if there are no background checks on some gun sales? How do you do that if there's no process to take a gun away from someone law enforcement knows is a danger to themselves or others? We need criminal background checks, and we need red flag laws.
Yes.
Minnesota voters overwhelmingly support these common sense measures. 90% support background checks on all gun sales, and a clear majority support stronger gun laws. 90%. That is 9 in 10 of every Minnesota voters. Are you listening, representatives? Are you listening, senators? Because you should, because we are the 90%. Who are we? We are the 90%.
We are the 90%. We are the 90%. We are the 90%. We are the 90%. We are the 90%.
That is right. If the vast majority of Minnesotans support these measures, then at the very least, they deserve a fair hearing and a vote. We are the 90%, and we will be making sure that these bills get a hearing and a vote. And I'm optimistic that after our hearing and debate, Minnesota senators and Minnesota representatives will end up where Minnesota voters are. As some of the speakers have said, we have been talking about this for a long time now, and it is time to act.
It's time to act.
What time is it?
It's time to act.
It is time to act for survivors, for our communities, and our children. The Minnesota House has acted and has passed our bills out of committee. One more committee, and it is on to a vote on the House floor. And then it is time for the Senate to act. We have come farther than we ever have before. But rest assured, we will not stop until these bills become law. Will be there when it happens. We're not going anywhere.
No.
Now go tell your legislators it's time
To act.
Friday at 10 a.m. we are delivering thank you notes. Please sign up over here. And thank you all for coming.